All right. So today we have three things that we are going to lift. We're going to do some conversations around learning walks. We're going to talk about some student council things, and then we have some guests from Film Twist who are going to um, do a presentation for us as well. So we've got a little bit of an packed agenda. Um, we're recording, and please feel free to drop questions in the chat. So I think we are starting with learning walks. Dr. Ellison, take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Webb. Great to see you all. Feels like it's almost fall break and we have a few more weeks left, but I know y'all are busy and holding a lot. So thanks for being here. And I wanted to just real quick ask everyone, even our Film Twist friends, because you're in this education and game too, if you could all drop in the chat, when you think of observations, like what do you think what are some of the purposes of observations? Because there's many reasons why we do observations in education and professional worlds. So everybody's like, let's fill up the chat. What are some purposes of observations? I love that the first one was to learn, Michelle. Love that. Okay, we got some celebrations. What else we got? Feedback, yep. Coaching, celebrate, make changes, insight, learning, monitoring, growth. Whoever iPhone is, that was brilliant. It's a brilliant iPhone. Critique and collaborate, love it. Okay, let's keep it going. So if your fingers are still on the keys and you're still typing, like please continue to add as we go. There are a lot of purposes of observations. And most of you probably know that in the Valley this year, well, actually across all of Aspire, one of the focus areas for our principals this year is our observation feedback cycle of making that really come to life. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to clarify some of the types of observations that we're going to be supporting this year in the Valley, not to say that all of these different purposes and all the types can exist, but there's a few that we want to just really focus our energy and attention on and have some shared language, like a shared lexicon around it. So Dr. Webb, if you could take me to the next slide. We want to share that grounded in the transformational leadership framework, there's really two areas that as leaders we want to attend to this year. And it's thinking about how are we using observations as part of learning and development for teammates, but then how are we also using it for progress monitoring? And so we're going to talk a little bit around two different pieces that we're going to be using this year, directly related to learning and development. And on the next slide, I just want to show you a connection to the TLF. If you don't mind, Dr. Webb, going to the next slide for me. Perfect. So I just copied the first and second stage of the transformational leadership framework. And I pulled out a few that I think are connected to this idea, the spirit of using observations as learning and development. And one of them you can see is that teachers receive concrete and actionable feedback within 48 hours of either an observation or a walkthrough. Like that's something that will ultimately help teachers learn and develop. We also see that principals need to have regular feedback systems so that staff receive feedback from members of the instructional team. And then also there's a part in school actions that we're able to give feedback both in instructional practices, but also student conduct concerns. So how do we give feedback on like this holistic part of our work, right? It's really about learning and growing over time. And then if you don't mind clicking for us, there's also pieces that are connected to progress monitoring. So as leaders, we know that we have to have systems where we're looking for whatever our school-wide focus is. So if we're looking for skills block happening in every classroom, we want to observe and see how it's going, what's working, what's not, and really narrowing in on whatever our school-wide focus is. The TLF also implores that great leaders, transformational leaders, make sure that every classroom is visited for at least 5 to 10 minutes 2 to 3 times a week as part of learning walks, where we're progress monitoring, right? And then having these systems by where teachers get differentiated support. And we all know that there's some teachers that like every 2 weeks is great, and some teachers need more than that. They need almost like a daily observation and a check-in. And so as leaders, we have to be thinking about these different systems. And so grounded in this TLF, we just wanted to like synthesize these ideas of how we think about observations from learning and development and progress monitoring in one place. And I also want to name, I'm looking on the screen, many of you were back here in TCRP days. We used to also use observations for evaluation and for pay. And so we do know there is some baggage for some of our teammates who have been with us for a while. And so it's on our shoulders to make sure that any observations and feedback feel in the spirit of learning and development, and for us to monitor and look for regional trends and patterns, but that it shouldn't feel evaluative, it shouldn't feel punitive, it shouldn't feel connected to their pay. So in the spirit of that, on the next slide, we wanted to just stamp some shared language so that we're all using the same words around the different practices. And this is in the slides. I'll go ahead and get the link for y'all because I know this is really small font. I'm sorry, give me a second. I'm gonna stick this in the chat for you to read too if you are interested. Okay, just found it. So the way this was created, we shared this with the mentor principals, and Wes had this really great question of like, it's really helpful to know like who's getting smarter, like what's the purpose of these different observations. And so the top half, we're really saying that there's two ways that we're trying to just build knowledge and build expertise. And one is through those regular coaching observation cycles. And then the other one is instructional rounds. And so we're going to talk a little bit about instructional rounds in just a second and get your feedback on instructional rounds. And then want to put our eyes down below the green line. You can see that we're going to have different ways that we're going to think about how we monitor our program. And if you've been with Aspire, you know, we've called them walkthroughs, we've called them learning walks, we've called them classroom walks, we've called them program inquiry walks, like all of the words. And so we're going to try to center around this term of learning walk, because again, we think this helps as a system to learn what are our trends, patterns, and promising practices. And so I want to go a little bit deeper into two things that are coming soon to a school near you. And so the first one, Tanisha, if you don't mind going to the next slide, is I wanted to let you know that for progress monitoring, this is something that I know school teams, you do learning walks across your campus, right? To like look for something in common. So as a regional team, we're going to start doing some learning walks to look for patterns and trends across our region. And this might start off with just our instructional directors for right now, and then principal supervisors might be joining in, and some of the program managers might be joining in eventually. But wanted to share with you that the first thing we're going to do is, so this would be Katie, Ben, Jen Sanders, Jen Herring, myself. We're going to be popping into classrooms across all 16 of our schools this month, in the month of September. And it's not an evaluative thing. We're just wanting to get a sense of how our GLEAM focus is going, because we're focusing this first semester, this first quarter, on just grade level content. And so we're going to do a few observations. We're going to capture it in Teach Boost, and we're really looking for trends and patterns. And so I wanted to share that with y'all here before you just see us popping up. And we'll leave, you know, some nice sticky notes to sell, just to appreciate the teachers for letting us in. But it's not meant to coach an individual teacher. It's really just meant for us to look for patterns and trends. And so principals, one of our asks is that you could, if we'll email you and set it up in advance. I go, hey, we're going to be visiting. And if you could just reinforce to teachers that we're there to just look for regional trends and patterns and promising practices, that would be really helpful, so they don't feel like they're being evaluated. It's just regional trends. And then we'll share out what we find across the region too. And if you are available, or a dean or an AP or anybody on campus wants to join us while we're there, we would love to have you join us. It's the more the merrier. So that's one piece. This is just a little FYI of coming soon to you. And then the next one we want to talk about is instructional rounds. And this is the one where we have a little pivot and want to get your input on in just a second. So as part of a learning experience, instructional rounds are really grounded in the people who are in the rounds, not the teachers being observed, but the people who are going to observe. Rounds are meant to be a learning tool for those people participating. And I think when we first started instructional rounds like a decade ago, we held that spirit. And then over the years, they've slowly morphed. And the past few years, instructional rounds have almost felt a little bit more evaluative. Like, let's go to a school, let's see how things are going, let's look for your your school-wide action plan in place or not. And we really want to pivot and turn instructional rounds back to a learning experience and one of cross-pollination. And so one thing we're hoping is that instead of asking every school to host their own instructional rounds, instead, we're going to host a few based on high leverage topics across the region. And so we want to get your input on what those topics might be, but we're imagining they're going to be things related to our priorities, maybe culturally responsive teaching, maybe critical literacy, maybe foundational skills, or co-teaching and co-planning, or maybe just you want to geek out on high school math. So we wanted to get your input on what topics would be most compelling. And then our hope and desire is that our regional team would facilitate the day. We will still have to be at schools, so we would love to hear if you'd like to have us at your school site, but that we would really, as a regional team, do more of the lift around hosting and preparing so that the people who go can really be in the learning mode. And we also want to get your feedback around who should be invited, because although we want all of our principals to get smarter on teaching and learning, it's a great experience also for deans, for APs, for mentor teachers, for resident teachers, for ed specialists, for GE, like anybody who goes, hopefully will get a little bit smarter on whatever topic we're focusing on. So we recognize that this is a big pivot from the way we've been doing rounds the past few years. And so we want to get your feedback and your input. And so I'm going to pause for a second and I'm going to stick a survey into the chat. And we're hoping that each principal will take it. And everyone who's on the call, please, we'd like to get your voice. But for sure, we want to make sure we get all 16 of our principals' voice in here too, as we start to plan out some of the logistics. So I'm going to hopefully pause for like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, let everybody kind of give initial what's coming up. And if anybody has any questions or things you'd like to add, feel free to unmute. And also, Ben, I know I wanted to invite you into the conversation. I know you've experienced some rounds that felt a little bit different. Do you want to share a little bit around like the timing and any thoughts you have you'd like to share?
Yeah, sure. Could I share my screen real quick?
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. Yeah, as Kat said, I began my journey with rounds in 2012, my first principalship with the San Diego County Office of Education, working with the juvenile court and community schools. And for us, it was really an equity issue. It was back then and continues to be today as we think about developing instruction and disrupting racialized outcomes. And so we had the opportunity, our division actually contracted with the Harvard University professor and researcher Richard Elmore. He was one of the co-authors of the text. And so I wanted to kind of do a little bit of quick framing and then provide this slide deck as a resource. I think it says the host disables screen sharing. I don't know what that. But provide this as a resource because Kat posed some questions to us about cadence, about like what topics might be. And so I've curated a couple resources from the authors and then different things online that I found as well that can serve kind of like to guide some of our conversations. Okay.
Try it now, Ben. Sorry.
All right. No, it's good. Okay. So instructional rounds essentially asks these, can you see my, okay, so it asks these 3 questions. How do we improve our collective teaching practice? As Kat said, how do we ensure that every classroom is a place of rich and valuable learning for all students? And who's responsible for doing so? And so instructional rounds really is very different, as Kat said, from supervision and evaluation. It's an inquiry process. The people doing the rounds, we should expect to learn something ourselves. So it's more of like a mirror for us to determine how well we are making progress from a regional stance in the priorities that we have stated that we want to uplift, kind of like our theories of action, that if we implement culturally responsive teaching, we should expect X, Y, and Z to improve. And so that's kind of the big ideas. Now, this is the part I want to sit on, and I'm sharing this with everybody in a couple seconds so you can think about it. I've never seen rounds take less than 1 full day. And so instructional rounds have a very set protocol that really comes, as we know, from like the medical rounds profession. And so the first thing you do is you identify the problem of practice and you really coalesce together around what that means, getting very granular about that. Then we do some exploration of the best practice, some professional learning for about an hour or so. And then when we walk into classrooms, it's very different than other types of learning walks or other visitings of classrooms. You typically visit 4 classrooms for 20 to 25 minutes, a little bit longer, and we're looking to observe as a camcorder would without judgment, which is very difficult for us to do, but we're very intentional about not climbing up that ladder of inference. Then we have an observational debrief where we look for patterns and we slowly climb that ladder of inference. This is an important step that you cannot rush past, because this is a way to kind of check some of our biases and assumptions that we hold about content, especially if we're observing content or grade level that we ourselves taught. We can have a lot of biases and assumptions related to that. Then you get into the next level of work. And that next level of work, we're really proposing recommendations for the host school typically, but this is for our region, for our shared next level of work. So you can see I put some general timelines there. Without a lunch, without doing anything else, it is a full day. And so I'm really wanting to nudge us to think about what it means to implement instructional rounds with integrity as intended, and so that we can yield those desired outcomes that we want. And so I've just put here in the deck just to show some of the principles of the instructional core. Going slow to go fast, a full day. I know it's tough as a site principal to be away for a full day, or whoever we have, but I really want to make that hard sell for that. And then also I put some resources of video resources of different districts. Here's one from Oakland Unified doing instructional rounds. Here's one from Australia. And then here's another that really breaks it down. So I'm going to put that in the chat for everybody now. And that's what I wanted to share about rounds, and encourage us to consider doing full days when we engage in the rounds.
Thanks, Ben. And leaders, I'm imagining you're having the questions of when and how do we sign up and what times and all of that good stuff. And so right now we just really wanted to engage you to hear what's resonating, what you would be excited about. And so please share your thoughts in the survey, and then we'll come back with more of the tactical pieces of how we sign up, who we sign up, where they'll be, and all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, we just want to hear what would get you excited about, what would you like to spend a day learning about? Or what would you like to have your teachers be able to go spend a day learning about, or your AP, or whoever's on your site. So thanks for listening and thinking about it. And please make sure that you respond to that survey link. It's only 3 or 4 questions. It's pretty short. And then we'll come back to you with updated vision and practice. So thanks, crew. Ben, can we link your slides into the huddle so that they're all in one place? Would that work? Okay, we'll get them linked. Thanks, Kim. And I think, Tanisha, am I passing it back to you? Oh, you're on mute.
Too many things happening. We are actually passing it over to Jen Herring.
Hi, guys. I'll be quick, don't worry. So you guys got an email, your office staff got an email on Friday talking about Student Advisory Council, which is something that we had put in the Pulse a couple weeks ago, and then again last week, but something that probably deserves a little more explanation. I'm learning what the right spaces are to give all these explanations. So thank you for bearing with me. But Student Advisory Council is going to be something where students from across the region have a chance to give input into regional initiatives. So we would like to have 2 students from every elementary, middle, and high school be able to represent their schools by expressing their opinions on initiatives that we're rolling out. So the first couple of things that they'll be giving input on will be the Vision 2030 and the grad profile. And then throughout the year and next year, it'll be different things. But this group would meet about quarterly. And according to the feedback that we got on the survey, they will meet during the school day so that every student is able to access that is on the council. We know that when kids go home, they have different levels of access to technology. And so we want everyone who's on the council to be able to participate. So the flyers that were sent out on Friday were sent to office staff. And I know you guys got it too, because I got some questions from folks, which were great, to be posted around campus so that students can use either their Chromebooks or their phones to scan the QR codes to apply to be a part of the Student Advisory Council. Once we have some applications in, we'll gather some more feedback from you all. I'm going to get together with Luncey on Friday. We're going to have another planning session, and we're going to get input from you all on when works best. We've already done some looking at schedules and trying to make sure that we schedule these during times when it won't interfere with students, especially students who are taking college courses at the same time, because they have like the least flexibility in terms of missed class time. But we'll still be getting input from you all. And for the first meeting, we're going to invite parents to attend so that they can find out everything that, you know, we're going to be talking about, what it's going to be like, who is hosting it, ask all their questions, things like that. And our first meeting will also be more about community building, and will take place in October. Well, like I said, we'll get feedback from you around timing and all that. But with the goal is to have, because we're starting in October, not beginning of the year, we'll have an October meeting and a November meeting so that we can give feedback on that vision and grad profile. And then the next two meetings won't happen until the spring and winter and spring next year. But what questions do we have? Because I know you guys probably have questions that I haven't addressed yet. One question that came up that was sent to us privately, and I'm going to go ahead and just answer it publicly because I think it might come up again, and it was a great question, was the idea that would it make sense to have student council members, like site student council members, be the representatives for the Student Advisory Council? And we actually thought that this would be a great opportunity for students who maybe don't get to participate in the site council to be able to give their opinions and their voice at a regional level. We know that the students who experience a lot of success in school, those are the ones who are likely to serve on site student councils, and the ones who maybe don't get to experience that same level of success in school don't have as many chances to give their input. So if they want to apply to this, we'd love for them to have the chance to do that. Doesn't limit you from having those other students also apply. But that's just the thought behind that. If you have any questions though, and you think of them later, send me an email. Otherwise, watch the pulse for the next survey around timing. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jen. All right. We now are going to, we have some guests from Film Twist who are going to do a presentation to us about their services and what they do. So Tien and Jesse, I can navigate your slides for you. Just tell me when you need me to click.
Certainly. So thank you all for allowing us to kind of peek into your meeting. And I know we've had the pleasure of meeting and working with some of you all, and to the new faces to us, nice to meet you. I'm Tien, the head of production for Film Twist, and I'm joined here with Jesse, who, if you'd like to intro yourself, Jesse.
Yeah, thanks for having us. I'm the marketing manager here at Film Twist. So kind of taking the content that's created and then turning it into ad campaigns.
Awesome. So the deck that we have here that Tanisha is sharing is something we put together. It's just a rundown of like some of our photo and video services, and then just some insights on how we might purpose that content. And so you'll also have a copy of this as well. And you can go ahead, Tanisha. And so, yeah, so all of the slides are just some common times where you might want photo and video coverage. For this first slide, event coverage, so kind of speaks for itself, but any back to school events, if you have community events or you want to, give a shout out to brand partnership events that you might have, school expos, summer camps, graduations. And if we're doing video coverage, we always suggest doing quick spot interviews. That's really great ways to build up testimonial and content that you could purpose for either highlighting the event itself or for things down the line. Internal development purposes, this is mostly like for internal communications. If you wanted to do videos that show professional development trainings, videos that could be purposed for training people later. We did for, both CHA and then ASSA and Apex, like some videos featuring like the new school site construction that kind of tracked the development. We also had some videos recently following the mission and vision rehaul and then introducing the new motto. So a lot of times if you see some of these photos or videos from these events, a lot of times it might be myself behind the camera or one of our teammates that we send out to work with you all. So yeah, if there was anything that you needed or is jumping out at you, just let us know and we're here to help. And then certainly if you had any questions, you can ask us too after our quick presentation. So school promotional, this is going to use a lot of some of that content that we just talked about we would capture, but to promote individual schools. This might be, one of the reasons why you call us out is that, we want to target certain grades and certain schools for enrollment. The way that these productions look like is just filming the school space, what a normal school day looks like, and then interviewing key members on your teams, sometimes students, sometimes families, to give a full kind of representation of who and what your school is and represents. And then recruitment videos. So this is taking a lot of the content that we had captured in some of the previous slides and really purposing that media towards recruiting, enrolling new students. Maybe it's recruiting staff as well. And there's different ways that we can market that content. And Jesse, if you wanted to shed some light.
Yeah, so with the new content, both photo and video, it allows us the opportunity to then turn those into ads. So running digital advertising campaigns on Facebook, Instagram, Google search, TikTok, that sort of thing. Typically, we do this from the regional level, so looking at kind of the entire area of Central Valley, and then focusing on in-need schools. But we've also had individual schools reach out to if they want to promote upcoming open houses or upcoming events, things like that. And typically, we run lead gen campaigns. So as the ads are running, it gives potential families the opportunity to put in their information and then allows us or you to follow up with them afterwards, either by email or by call and text, and then directing them to apply. So that's kind of in a nutshell how the system works, and then sending them over to applications, following up with the leads, and kind of generating interest that way.
Yeah, can I add a couple layers to that, if that's okay?
You sure can.
Yeah, so it's been a great partnership with y'all. We've learned a lot along the way. We streamlined. Before, we were just routing everyone to our website for the enrollment, and we realized that was too cumbersome and not all families would want to click all the way through. So we have like a temporary interest form that FilmTwist created that goes on the ads that then generates either phone number or email leads. We now have a company that's also taking those leads from FilmTwist and making the phone calls for you as well. So I wanted you all to know that there's people behind the scenes that are taking any interest in your school. If they said, I'm interested in signing up, making phone calls and routing them to go to your campus or call your campus or get on the website to sign up directly. So they can actually help them get onto School Mint directly from that phone call. So know that that's happening behind the scenes. Also, to loop back to what was just shared, we have an ad campaign, like Jesse said, for both Modesto and Sacramento right now that's specifically for schools in those clusters. They're running ads frequently on Facebook, Instagram, etc. There's a to-do that I would like for every school, though, is to find like the social media, guru, expert, is already on it all the time and knows it really well and can be your promoter to help click on, like, follow, repost things that are coming out of either the regional website or other schools posts. That way we get more of a buzz, because the more people like or follow or repost, the more an ad gets attention, the more it gets recirculated. So we have the access for all of our 16 schools. So we could actually create our own buzz from the ads that we're.
Oh, I think we lost him.
Oh, he's back. There you go.
Okay.
Tony, we lost you for a minute.
Yeah, I got too much into it. I was just saying, Brooke will reach out, if she hasn't already, about getting someone from each site that's interested in being like the social media liaison, the guru, the expert, the promoter, and that will actually be a stipended role, kind of like how we had data driver before or tech driver, different things like that. So it'll be one of those roles that lives in the pay tool. So I don't know, Melissa, is there any more details on that? I just want to make sure I got that out there. And sorry, it's a little bit of background noise.
No, I think you shared everything. So Brooke should be sharing that information out with you. And there's like a job description that she worked on for it, similar to our other ones. So should be coming soon.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that, Tony. And yes, there are a lot of, so this slide, it basically summarizes the different kind of formats that we do capture content. We also do like headshot photography, portraits, group retreats for, whatever you'd like to display at your offices. A lot of the videos might be captured in a documentary style, or we can edit them specifically for highlights. We've also been working with, social media influencers. So not only do we go out and send folks with cameras, but we also do the editing too. So a lot of really great content is if, like you were saying, Tony, if there was like a big social media guru at each site, or someone who's just more tapped into, pulling out that phone to grab a quick shot at the community event. Sometimes we can take that content and repurpose them towards ads or just make an edit from those. So it feels a little bit more organic or kind of on the ground. And in this slide, you'll also find a link to our photo and video request form. Whether you yourselves have an idea for some really great photo or video needs, or you want to assign that to someone in your office as like, this is going to be the main point person who can help organize these productions, or who just has an idea or a flair for production in general, just have them fill out this form, and then we'll reach out to them and schedule a shoot for whatever you may need. Excellent. And I think the last slide really just has our distribution email on it too. So you can either use that request form for a specific production, or you can always email this distribution email, and then myself, Jesse, and my team will get your correspondence and we'll follow up with you.
Thank you so much, Jesse and Tian, for joining us. I dropped in the chat. I will add the deck from today's meeting later today in the Ovite, so you all can see the slides. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for supporting our schools and our recruitment efforts. We appreciate it so much.
Awesome. Thank you for
Thanks for
having
having us.
Yes, thank you so
Certainly.
much.
Did anyone
thanks, y'all.
just before, I know Jesse
Yeah.
had a call, you had to hop off, but just before, did anyone have any questions for myself or for our services? Okay,
Well,
well,
I can
oh,
predict or anticipate one, so let me just offer it.
sure.
Who pays, right? That's going to probably be one of the questions. If I were a principal sitting there like, okay, great. Is this all covered or what does this cost? So generally the ad campaigns that we have already established are a contract between the region and Film Twist. And so that's ongoing costs that the region is paying. And it's substantial. I mean, we're putting a lot of money into marketing and we're getting a lot of results. So I do think that that's an investment worth doing. But if schools want to do a separate campaign or run a separate photo shoot, or like you described, some schools have done like virtual tours where you have the drone fly around and then you do some interviews. Those really came out nice. You can see there's some for Apex and ASSA, AASA, and I think CHA, and those really are sharp. I think Summit might have did one too. They're really sharp, but they do cost money. So just know that additional support from Film Twist around creating content would cost extra. But one thing that's great about that is they have a ton of stock photos of Aspire kids all over the place too. So if you need something even for a PowerPoint deck or something that you want to highlight our own students, you can also reach out to them and they have a bank of content that they've created that's already available. So again, to reiterate, anything additional beyond what we already are paying for, the ad campaigns would be a cost towards the school. And I don't know if you can give kind of a general idea of what something like that might cost.
Sure. We have a pricing sheet, and what I can do is I can add it to the deck. And all of our prices are prorated as well. We give heavy discounts to y'all. And then certainly, like you said, Tony, if we can combine it with a campaign, we can also use some budget for that. Or we do have like a general retainer, but we can look at it depending on if it can serve kind of the organization. If it's very school site specific, a lot of times it may have to be a la carte, but we can discuss that amongst ourselves. And like you pointed out, we've had a partnership with Aspire for it's been about 10 years now at this point. We have such a wealth of content that although we can purpose that content, it is great. Like when new team members come on board or a new school year starts, we want to get like everything up to date and current. And let me tell you, we got like a lot of mask footage that we just can't really use anymore. But that's why refreshing content is always important to do.
Yeah, totally. So again, be looking out for who is your cool, hip social media guru on site that you want to tap and ask to be your promoter, your.
All right. Thank you so much. We are rapidly hitting 9:45, and I know that is our cutoff time. So if we have a few more announcements to run through, we are recording. If you do have a hard stop at 9:45, we understand, but we're going to run through these announcements really, really quick.
All right. Take care.
Thanks, Film Twist.
Bye.
All right. Chels, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all on Zoom. I just wanted to provide just a quick update around surveys. So many of you have probably gotten the emails that I've sent out. I sent one out last week and then also yesterday. And then I've kind of talked to folks in person and or through individual emails. So the survey windows open starting yesterday until September 22nd, and this is for 3 of the surveys. So we have student, family, and staff. I am going to send out today another email. I know Mala sent one out yesterday around staff surveys. I'll send out another one today, including the staff survey link. It's a unique link where you'll log in with your email all lowercase. That's specific to staff surveys. The recommendation is to give staff time during like a Wednesday meeting. So then we ensure that completion rates actually happen. And then in regards to student surveys, I am going to share this link. I'm asking folks to fill out this Excel sheet. It was actually shared by Sarah Salazar, and I really appreciated it. Basically, it has you identifying who is going to be the family point person for that survey, who's responsible for that communication, staff, and then also for student. and then it kind of allows you to think through like, okay, when are my teachers going to be administering the student survey? For secondary, will it be in advisory? Will it be in a specific teacher's room? And then for elementary, thinking through like it could be during SEL explicit instruction time. So really being intentional and thoughtful of when we're going to be administering those surveys for our students. And then in regards to family surveys, I did send out a link and then an example parent square message. If you need me to resend those, I can also resend those as well. And then yesterday we had a meeting. I know Brooke will be adding reminders to social media. There's an offering around prizes. So they're kind of bulleted right there. I won't go through them, but I'll just kind of leave open right now any questions or anything that's top of mind for folks.
Hey Chelsea, I had a question.
Hi.
We actually have our SOCs the week of the 25th,
Mhm.
and I was hoping to use that as another platform to garnish family input. Is there any way that we can extend that deadline, or is that a hard deadline?
I am not responsible for that, but I could always reach out to Nisai or Coco to see their input and then get back to everyone if that's because I know that was another conversation at another site too.
Yeah, I know we were a little light last year with the survey, so I want to make sure that we
Yeah.
do our part. But I just want to make sure that we can have the opportunity to
Right.
to rely on SLC weeks when we already have parents here. So
Totally. Yeah.
just to offer.
Even if it's just family surveys, like that would be
Yeah,
extended.
just family
Okay.
surveys.
Okay.
I can get my staff to do it this Wednesday, and kids are doing it next week. But just family survey wise.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a really reasonable request. I appreciate that.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I'll ask and then I'll send an email out to everyone just with updates.
Thank you, Chell. All right, here we go. Oh, okay. Updates and reminders. So Principal COP is next week at the CBRO. On Tuesday, you all should have received an email this morning from Melissa around pre-work. I think you should have the invitation and pre-work. Check your emails. If you did not, it's in there. Katie, you want to talk about the regional Gleam makeup session?
Yeah, it's just super quick. If you had like a few teachers that were not able to attend your school session for either one of the first two Gleam PDs, feel free to sign them up here. First half is Gleam session 1, second half is Gleam session 2. You'll see it in the sign up sheet, and it'll be with Jen Sanders and myself.
Thank you very much. Just a reminder, please make sure you select your CASP testing coordinator. The form is linked there, and then you can look at the assessment calendar if you aren't sure if you've already done it. And then just a reminder, the PLP window is open, as we talked about in our COP in August. Teachers and administrators PLPs are in Teach Boost. We relinked the slides from Julie from the CLP. So those are there. Your classified teammates, anyone who is not a teacher or an administrator, their PLPs will be in Quantum. Just reminding you all of that. And then make sure that you give some feedback on the instructional rounds if you didn't already do it. And then please confirm your site coordinators for your surveys. That is linked here. And then next week there are new teammate training. So new teammates who started after summer PD, there will be trainings for them as well. I think those are all of the announcements I was supposed to hit. Did I miss anything?
No, just make sure you sign up your new teammates.
Yes, we want new teammates to be trained. And then Chelsea dropped a link in the chat for survey completion. Make sure you all take your surveys too. How about that? Just drop that little reminder. Make sure you take your teammate survey. I don't know who's talking.
Kim.
Oh, hey Kim.
Is the new teammate training geared the makeup mostly for instructional, or would that also be for classified people that you might have hired after the deadline?
Everybody.
Thank you.
Think about your social media people as well. I will stay on for a few minutes, but I think those are all the announcements that we had. Please read the post and have a great day, everybody.